Hello, everybody. Welcome to tonight's edition of From the Boardroom to the Locker Room. And tomorrow they will be on the first tee at the Nedbank Challenge. It used to be the $1 Million Golf Challenge. It's changed its name over a couple of years, but it certainly is Africa's major. And joining us this evening, somebody who's been around for an awful long time, and I'm sure was even there on the first tee when Johnny Miller hit the first golf ball at the Nedbank $1 Million Challenge all those years ago. Dale Hayes. Dale, how are you? Welcome to the program again.
No, thank you very much. Obviously, this is, is a big week for golf in South Africa. You know, what Sun International and Sol Kersner have done for the game of golf is absolutely amazing. He's given us a few great golf courses. He's given us this Africa's major tournament, as well as many other golf tournaments that allow not only professionals to play, but amateurs as well.
It goes back a long time. It started off as an event that kind of was... Am I right? It was in the apartheid days still, when Sun City was in Botswana and you kind of crossed an imaginary border to get there. It really has developed, hasn't it?
That's right. You know, there's a lot of talk at the moment about the LIV Tour and sports washing by Saudi Arabia and everything. They should actually pay Sol Kersner a royalty fee because he started that. I mean, that was exactly what he was doing in those days. If you remember, at Sun City, we had all the heavyweight boxing. We had Frank Sinatra and Cher and Queen. All the big bands came and played. We had, and then what happened with the golf tournament is they had a Sun City Classic tournament, which was a normal Sunshine Tour tournament. And Lee Trevino came out. And Sol said to Lee Trevino, he said, how do I really get this place on the map? And Sol Kersner said, put up $1 million for a golf tournament. And everybody in the world will be talking about Sun City, South Africa. And that's exactly what Sol Kersner did. He put up $1 million, and they invited, for that first year, I think there were just 6 players, but generally there were about 8, and eventually it went up to 12 players. And, they were some of the best players in the world. Jack Nicklaus played, Johnny Miller played, he won the first one, Seve Ballesteros played, Nick Faldo played. Most of the best players in the world played in the event, and it got worldwide television coverage, and everybody knew Sun City, South Africa.
And guess in those days, 1981, we're talking about, $1 million was, I mean, it's not anything to be sneezed at now, but then it was unheard of to win $1 million in a golf tournament or any event.
No, absolutely. It was crazy money for those days. I mean, that's why you got those sort of players to come out, because the money was, the potential of winning the money was so great. The first prize wasn't $1 million at the start. I think Ian Woosnam was the first player that ever won $1 million as the first prize. And that was sort of, 5 or 6 or 7 years later. So, I mean, Sol Kersner always made sure, that it was attractive for the players to come. Plus which, the players, their caddies, their families get treated like gold when they come to South Africa. He offers them, a holiday down in Cape Town. He offers them a visit to a game reserve, so they get treated like gold. I know last year when Max Homer, who ended up winning, and Justin Thomas, who came out last year, I mean, they went back to America evidently and just raved about South Africa and what a great time they'd had in South Africa.
Now, there's nothing wrong with golf besides the internal and the political issues with LIV and PGA and whatever. But the 80s was the pinnacle of golf. The Seves, the Bernard Langers, Raymond Floyd, Craig Stadler, our very own Mark McNulty, Fulton Allen. These are players that in the 80s, David Frost, were playing golf at the absolute peak and came and played this iconic golf course.
Absolutely. And what made those tournaments at Sun City, at the Gary Player Country Club, so exciting was there was always a South African in contention. So, you had David Frost, who won it 3 times. You had Fulton, who won it. You had Nick Price, who won it 3 times. Mark McNulty won it. So you had South Africans in contention. And that's what made it really exciting, for the viewers and for the people out there watching. The last few years, unfortunately, that hasn't really happened. I have a feeling this year we've got a few players from South Africa who are playing really good golf. I pick out Tristan Lawrence. The golf course suits him down to the ground. He's in form. He loves the big occasion. He did so well in the Open Championship. So, I think we might see that again this year.
Let's have a look at the criteria, though, because as we mentioned, it was by invitation to start with in the 80s and so on. Now, the criteria is slightly different to be able to play in the event.
Well, now it's become a DP World Tour event, and it's an invitational event, a special event. So the field is, probably half the size of a normal tournament. There are only 66 players, so it's quite a difficult tournament to get into for the players. They've obviously got to perform really well. Brandon Stone, for example, who's had a good year on the DP World Tour this year, only got in as the second alternate. And he's got into the event, which is great news, because Brandon's another player who's playing really good golf. Also, knows that golf course inside out, back to front, upside down. So it is an invitational event, but there is criteria of qualifying. So, the top players on the DP World Tour qualify. The leader of the Sunshine Tour qualifies. Then they have some invitational spots. And this year they've invited 4 players from North America, 2 from Canada and 2 from America. Will Zalatoris, who's regarded as the best player in the world today from tee to green. Max Homa, obviously, he's the defending champion. And then 2 from Canada, Corey Connors and Mackenzie Hughes, both terrific players. So we've got 4 exciting players coming from the United States of America.
And even though that it's now part of the DP World Tour, what is fantastic is that the winner of our Sunshine Tour Order of Merit gets an opportunity to play at this event.
Well, yeah, we do. That's Ryan van Velzen got into it that way. Ryan van Velzen is a youngster from Benoni Lake Golf Club. His father was the pro there. And Ryan is a really good young player. And, if he can really do well in this event, it's going to really kickstart his career, because he can earn enough money to keep his card for next year on the DP World Tour, and just so many different things. If he carries on playing well, he could get into Open Championship, could get into some majors. So this event is huge for South Africans. I think there are 9 South Africans playing, and for all of them, a good week this week is massive.
When we look at the golf course itself, from a television point of view, it doesn't ever look like it's changed. It's always in immaculate condition. I know that they've had difficulty every time you get around this time of the year with drought, but that golf course is it fair to say a golf course matures, Dale?
Oh, absolutely. People that developers, for example, that develop golf estates and stuff, if they're not golfers, they think you just build a golf course and leave it and that's it. But, golf course needs to be tweaked all the time, because you're dealing with, a property of maybe 60 to 80 hectares. And, things, holes end up playing longer or shorter than you thought. Bunkers are sometimes in the wrong places because of that. Trees need to be moved. All sorts of things need to happen. So, absolutely. In fact, they've taken that bunker on the right-hand side of the 18th out for this year's event, to encourage the players to use a driver off the tee. Now, if they use a driver, it'll be only a short iron, probably an 8 or a 9 iron into the green. So I think it's going to make that last hole much more exciting. I think we'll see a lot more birdies on that last hole. So, they're tweaking the golf course all the time. The golf course is 45 years old this year. Opening in 1979.
Yeah, 7,000 meters off the championship tees. In terms of golf courses around the world, I guess that's about the same length as most championship courses.
It's probably a little bit longer than most. It's 7,000 yards, just over 7,000 meters. So I know at one stage you had Copperleaf, Blair Athol, and Sun City as the 3 longest golf courses that they played on the DP World Tour. So I'm sure it's still close to being that.
When we look at the layout of the course, it's different for the mere mortals that play it during the week. When it becomes a championship course, the first or the 9th and the 18th are different.
Well, they play the golf course the normal way round. So the 9th and the 18th are the same as the way the members would play it. But often when they play other tournaments there, they swap the 9s around. So they'd finish on the 9th hole, which is the par 5, with a spectacular green with water right around the green and beautiful rock work and all that sort of stuff. So they change it around for a lot of the tournaments. But generally, if you go and play there on a weekday, you play the course as it is now, but from tees that are probably 50 or 60 or 70 yards forward.
A lot of talk is always about the speed of the greens, and I guess the hotter it gets, the faster the greens get, and the better you are as a putter, the more chance of you scoring a low round.
Absolutely. The big thing with Sun City, they've got those clover leaf greens. So you've got to make sure that you hit your iron shots in the right places to leave yourself uphill putts. If you leave yourself a lot of downhill putts at Sun City, you're always on the back foot. You're always having to be a little bit less aggressive than you are if you're putting uphill. So your iron shots are also very, very important as to where you leave the ball. But a funny story that came out a little while ago, again, kind of had been forgotten. But when they built the golf course, Sol Kersner said to Gary Player, we're going to play a tournament there at the end of 1979 in December. And the golf course wasn't even close to being ready. There was hardly any grass on the greens. Some of the fairways were quite bare. So they gave you a stick that was about 1 meter long, and you could place the ball anywhere on the golf course in that tournament. When Sol Kersner walked out to have a look, he suddenly saw these brown greens and kind of brownish color water. And he said to Selwyn Nathan, he said, what's going on here? I thought golf courses are supposed to be green. The water's supposed to be blue. What the hell's going on? So Selwyn Nathan went and bought all the dye he could find in Johannesburg and sent it up to Sun City and dyed all the greens green and dyed the water blue. But he never took into account the humidity. So when they woke up the next morning, the greens were blue and the water was green.
Oh, my goodness. What a wonderful story. Now, I've spoken about the greens. The fairways are unforgiving if you miss them. And there are a couple of cobras and a few snakes and a couple of animals that might surprise a few Americans who have arrived at our beautiful golf course.
That's right. If you're lucky, you will see some of the animals, which obviously for the international players is a huge bonus. But, this year, because the tournament has moved back a week, so it's gone back to the original date that it had, when it was probably 5 or 6 years ago. And that gives the golf course a little more opportunity for the rough to grow. So that makes, hitting fairways very, very important. Now, the last couple of years, it hasn't been quite so important. If you hit in the rough, you could get away with it. If you're a little bit lucky, you'd still have a shot to the green. But I think this year it's going to be very different from that point of view. I think if you miss the fairways, you're going to probably be, taking 2 shots to get to the green.
Let's talk a little bit about the patron and the tournament in honor of Gary Player. I mean, you played with him. You've been around him forever. He just doesn't age. I mean, he does, but he doesn't. And yet he's always there. And I know he loves to get involved in the event. He's the patron, but he's somebody that will live forever in our memories, even 100 years down the line when all of us are gone.
Absolutely. We were very fortunate enough to have Gary at our golf course last Thursday. And he's now 89 years old. He flew in from Hong Kong the day before. He got back here in the afternoon. He was here at about 7:20 in the morning for breakfast. And at about 7:20 in the evening, he went home. He spent the whole day out on the golf course, doing a clinic, playing golf with people, talking to people, signing autographs. He spent 10, 11, 12 hours just giving of himself to people. And there were 140 people that were here as part of the event, and there might have been another 30 or 40 people that came along. But every single one of those people has left being a Gary Player fan when they saw, just how he gives of himself. At 89 years of age, he's amazing. He really is. He's got so much stamina, so much energy. He loves life. And the thing people don't know about Gary, he loves to laugh. Gary, his father was actually called Laughing Harry. And Gary's exactly the same. Gary loves to laugh. You'll see him, you'll say something to Gary that's got a little bit of humor in it, and Gary will laugh like hell. And I think that's just one of the many things that keeps him young. Plus, he mixes with young people. Most of the people he mixes with aren't even close to his age. And I think that also helps to keep him young. But his stamina and his love for life is really inspiring.
We talk about the youngsters that are coming. There was talk of this Chinese sensation, and I never know whether Chinese is it Wen Yi Ding or Ding Wen Yi. Is he here?
No, he's not. We don't invite anybody if we can't pronounce their name.
Let's just go back to the tournament itself and the years gone by. You've broadcast, you've been there, you've walked the course, you've carried bags as in heavy equipment with microphones and so on your back. Tell us some of your fondest memories of the event.
Oh, wow. I think one of them was when Nick Price won. The very first hole in the last round, Nick Price is leading. And, obviously it was the first one he won. And, he badly wanted to win it, obviously. And he got up on the first hole. He had a beautiful drive down the left-hand side of the fairway and had the ball slightly below his feet for his second shot with a 9-iron and knocked it straight in the hole. And, it was just amazing to watch. He was playing, I think I'm right in saying, with Mark McNulty. And Mark McNulty played well that day, but Nick just was sensational. I don't think I've ever seen anybody play 18 holes as well as Nick did that day. Ernie Els also, has had some wonderful successes there, some really low scores. He holds a record for the lowest score. Another one was David Frost when he beat a Lotherball. And on the 18th hole, they were tied for the lead. And they both hit 5 irons into the green to about, I would say, under 10 feet, both of them. And it was just Olathaball's putt first. And Olathaball, how the putt missed, I don't know. And David Frost got up and knocked it in to beat him by a shot. The crowd went absolutely berserk. But I think the highlight for me actually had nothing to do with anybody winning the tournament. It was actually a person who was disqualified. And that was Jim Furyk. So what happened with Jim Furyk was if you place your ball, now in America, if you place your ball on the green, in other words, if you have preferred lies, you can do it more than once. But on the DP World Tour or the South African Tour, you could only do it once. So if you placed your ball, the ball was in play. And he didn't realize that. So he, on 1 or 2 holes, placed his ball twice. And by pure accident at the function that night after the second round, he was standing there where somebody came up to one of the rules officials and asked him about that particular rule. And it was for his own, because he wanted to know for something that he'd done. And Jim Furyk happened to be nearby and overheard the conversation and said, but hang on a second, I did that. So the guy said, well, then, you need to be penalized for that. And because you've already handed your card in, you've handed the wrong scorecard in, therefore you're disqualified. So he was disqualified from the tournament. Yet the next day, he arrived to play with the guy that he was drawn with in his tee-off time, even though he wasn't in the tournament. He arrived to play. And on the first tee, he got a standing ovation. And he came back the next 2 years and won the next 2 Nedbank Golf Challenges. I think that was one of the highlights because that really shows what makes golf different.
Absolutely. And does it still happen as much as it did in those days? Nick Price also was disqualified, wasn't he?
Yes, Nick was also disqualified. That was actually very much a misunderstanding, I think. That was unnecessary. I think, there were sort of some heated tempers and stuff like that caused that. What had happened there, his caddy had moved an advertising board, but then was told that he couldn't, so he put it back. And so Nick got no advantage at all from it. And the rules official, when he asked Nick the question, Nick thought that somebody had actually turned him in. It wasn't actually a fact. Nick got a bit angry about it. And he sort of said, okay, well, then disqualify me. And he walked out the scoring set. And the scorer made a bad mistake because what he should have done is not accept Nick's card and followed Nick outside and calmed him down, and sorted it out because that's what should have happened. That was very unnecessary.
Quite weird because, one of the nicest guys you'd ever wish to meet and or interview is Nick Price.
Absolutely. Nick is a terrific guy, a great golfer, and, he would never, well, that just was proof of it. He would never, ever think of taking any advantage of the rules.
South Africans have got unbelievable support at the event. A lot of pressure on them playing in the tournament. And obviously years gone by, Trevor Immelman's won it. Ernie's won it. We've mentioned Fulton Allen. We've obviously mentioned Nick from Zimbabwe as well as Mark McNulty. The support they get from the spectators is remarkable.
It is. And, I think let's be honest, that's South Africans. We're behind our Springbok team. We're behind the cricketers. We're behind our golfers. And, what we need now is another Ernie Els or Retief Goosen. And I really think that Tristan Lawrence is perhaps the guy that could follow in their footsteps. I think he's got everything. He's the real deal. He's the whole package. He's got everything. And, listen, if he plays well, he can win here. if he doesn't play so well, maybe he doesn't win. But he's going to be a big winner in the future. There's no doubt in my mind.
I'd say the South Africans are well supported by the spectators. It's a massive social event, and all the golfers are brilliantly supported. And Sun City put on a spectacle second to none. I mean, the hospitality, everything about it is just incredible. If anyone's never been to this particular event, it should be on your bucket list.
Well, I think, I don't know, Louis. The Durban July, I think in the old days was one of the great sporting events in South Africa. And again, like the Nedbank Golf Challenge, most of the people that went to the Durban July, didn't follow horse racing. Yeah. And it's the same thing with the Nedbank Golf Challenge. Most of the people that go there aren't golfers, but they go there because it's a place to be seen. And as you say, the hospitality is fantastic. If you can get invited into one of those tents, I mean, you get treated like gold. And even for, just daily ticket holders, there's so much to do. And it ends off with a whole bunch of top South African bands playing music. And of course, you can go to the casino afterwards. So it makes for a perfect day out. And I think with the change of date back to the school holidays, I think we're going to see a lot of people out there this week.
One of the highlights always for me whenever I had the opportunity to go was the beach party, where you can mingle around, you can have a chat to the golfers, to the players, to the media. It's just something really special. And yet every single year, somehow Sun International and the team there are able to make it better. How do they do it, Dale?
I don't know. I really don't know. They've got a big team of people that are just trying to come up with ideas. They do go overseas and look at what's happening at different tournaments overseas. And, if there's anything, that they can copy from some tournament overseas. I mean, they've improved the scoreboards, for example, over the last few years. The scoreboards are really terrific. And the entertainment center, and as I say, the entertainment center, especially for just daily ticket holders, is greatly improved. There's lots of options of places to go and eat and drink and stuff like that. And to take shelter from the sun, which is very important because it does get very hot.
Take your sunscreen with you and watch out for the lightning late in the afternoon. Right, let's just briefly talk, if we may, about the field. The defending champion, Max Homer's back. There was no difficulty in asking him to come back, I guess. Who stands out for you in that field? You've mentioned Thurston Lawrence. Anybody else that is, I guess they're all in contention, but who do you think might be up top there after the fourth day?
I think from the DP World Tour, one of the players, Paul Waring, is playing some wonderful golf. So I think Paul Waring might be somebody to watch. Another one is Matteo Manacero, who got a breakthrough at Glendower earlier this year. He's also playing some terrific golf. Højgaard, one of the two brothers. I see the one brother just withdrew from the tournament, so he's a superb player. And then this guy, Will Zalatoris from America. He's from tee to green. He's evidently one of the best in the world. I look forward to seeing him play. I saw a few shots of his at the Open Championship, but I really look forward to seeing him play because he's got a beautiful golf swing. He's a terrific player. From South Africa, there's Robin Williams, who's won a couple of tournaments here on the Sunshine Tour, and he's done well on the Challenge Tour overseas. He's a very, very good player, and he hits the ball a million miles, so the golf course suits him very, very well. And I think a lot of eyes are going to be on this young Aldrich Potgieter, who's a youngster, and he's been invited to the event. I think a lot of people will be watching out to see how well he does. He won the amateur championship, and I think he might be somebody to watch. I'm not sure he'll be a winner just yet, but I think he might end up being high up.
Well, it all starts tomorrow. Tease off, watch it on television. If you've got the opportunity, get off to Sun City. It's going to be an absolute cracker. As always, lovely chatting to you, and enjoy the tournament.
Thank you very much, Louis. Take it easy, eh?
Lovely stuff. That's Dale Hayes looking ahead to tomorrow's Nedbank Challenge. What a tournament it promises to be. We will be talking about it on Friday evening in our preview show as well. That's tonight's edition of From the Boardroom to the Locker Room. Tee off. Be nice to each other. Until next time. Bye for now.